Magandang gabi, everybody. What an incredible turnout. I am just looking at the energy party right now. It looks absolutely amazing. And thanks for joining us, Gabby and Luke. I'm so excited to premiere our video tonight. Just quickly, if any of you guys we haven't met yet, my name is Leah Callon-Butler. I was lucky enough to catch up with Gabby and Luke when we were in Los Angeles, Venice Beach, back in March, and we had this epic conversation, which we happened to catch on camera, and I hope you're going to enjoy it today. It was a beautiful day in LA, and we covered everything from community building to play to earn and why it's a great retention driver, through to the do's and don'ts of Web3 incentive design, all the things. You're about to see it for yourself. And we've only got a few minutes. So I just wanted to throw over quickly to Gabby and Luke and say, what was your favorite part about this conversation? If people are going to be watching tonight across the socials and in-game, what was your favorite bit? What should they look out for? Gabby, do you want to say first?
First of all, good morning, Luke. I'm so happy you're joining us at 7 a.m. your time.
Morning.
Hope you've had coffee.
I know it's incredibly early for you, and I now like all of my waking up at 3 a.m. for your aim is absolutely worth it.
yeah, it's payback.
No, I just enjoy the conversation because we were just going back and forth. We didn't have a script. And there is so much good content that came out of it. And yeah, the video starts in 3 minutes. So we're just excited to show you everything that we talked about.
Yeah, Luke, did you have any highlights?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking on like a bunch of different podcasts and stuff lately, but I haven't actually had a conversation with anybody who knows the space like Gabby. And it was really refreshing because, yeah, we got to dive into and we got to talk about some stuff that we wouldn't talk about otherwise.
Yeah, it's a very in-depth conversation. It goes for 50 minutes, guys, so I hope you enjoy. Before we, the music starts playing and we get kicked off, I just want to point out that there is a YGG Gap quest happening tonight.
That's right.
So if you guys are familiar with the Guild Advancement Program or not, you can go to yieldguild.io and find out more. But just for being at the Energy Party and creating some sick content and posting it on Twitter, you could be up for earning some really great rewards. So make sure you go to yieldguild.io to find out more about that. Gabby, did you want to add anything just quickly about the Guild Advancement Program and what people can expect from the Pixels quest there this season?
It's our questing program that we've been doing for the last couple of years, now on its season 6. And now we created a Gap quest just for attending this energy party. So if you're already attending, if you're already there, make sure you do the Gap quest as well. Go to yieldguild.io and then go to season 6 and yeah, take a screenshot of you there and make sure you join us for the quest.
Absolutely. I'm just waiting for the moment that we're going to get kicked off. I'm so excited because this really is the second time that we've had a Pixels party that has been specifically Filipino friendly time. So Luke, what are you expecting in terms of turnout tonight? I'm also seeing a lot of Tagalog in the chat over here, so I think that's a dead giveaway too.
Yeah, it's always way higher when we do it on Filipino friendly times, is what I'll say. I think the record of most concurrent users in Pixels was when we had an AMA in like a Filipino friendly time.
That's awesome. Well, I suppose you're going to become an early riser so that we can do more of these. Like,
No, I need to be at we have to. We have to.
that's awesome. Okay, we're seeing the countdown here. So I guess just a little bit of housekeeping, guys. You will be able to see the video in game. Make sure you stay there for the full hour so that you can get best results from the Energy Party. But you can also catch us and chat with more of the community across Discord, X, Facebook. You've got the premiere at YouTube and also Twitch. There is a link tree in there somewhere. I'm not sure where you can find it, but I think Heidi might have put it in most of the calendar invites, maybe. You'll be able to find it there and navigate real quick. And we're not going to do an AMA at the end, so this is just our very quick intro. So we're going to say like hi and bye and go and watch, but we will definitely be in the chat and taking questions. Luke and Gabby will be there to answer your questions throughout. I will say that the chat is very much focused on game design, incentive design, community building, things like that. So if there's anyone out there tonight who is thinking about building their own Web3 game or has a dream to do something like that, you're going to find this an absolute gold mine of insight. Would you guys agree in terms of what the nature of this conversation?
Yeah, very much so. We're talking about a lot about economy, about play to earn. Yeah, there's a lot of good content in there.
We got deep.
And we talked about the tractor. So yeah, people will learn about the mysterious user acquisition tractor.
That is a hilarious story. I'm really looking forward. I don't want to spoil it, but I think everyone's going to absolutely love that. And just there is a sneak cameo from Heidi to fill us in on that one. Luke, when you said that in our conversation in LA, I really did take a double take. I didn't ask at the time because I was so confused. I was like, what? Anyway, you guys will find out for yourself.
All right,
please
here
enjoy.
We go.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Seen like super low LTV per user, and I mean, yeah, Pixels is monetizing like pretty well even before we moved into the token incentive, if I can say.
Yeah, because I think before then, like particularly in the Philippines, everyone was really into the remittance use case. It was like, oh, how do we make it faster and cheaper for overseas Filipino workers to send money home? But I hear this again and again with a lot of Web3 gaming founders. They were like, all these financial use cases were so boring.
Yeah, I
But
just found remittances really boring and like, oh, they're charging 6%, we'll charge 1% or less instead. But then it turned out that even at the height of Axie, it was games earning SLP that allowed people to send money back home to their family, but it wasn't via currency. It was from actually in-game currency, in-game assets.
yeah, at one point, Axie's in-game currency was so widely earned and used that merchants in the Philippines were accepting it as payments for all sorts of goods and services. So when it was announced at the YGG Web3 Games Summit that Pixels had more than 100,000 daily active users, the majority of them from the Philippines, this was a pretty important milestone because it made Pixels the first game on the Ronin blockchain to count those sort of numbers since Axie. Luke said it was his prior experience designing virtual meeting spaces that got him so focused on enticing players to come back day after day after day.
Yeah, so Pixels was a really different product before it became Pixels, but not that different at the end of the day too. It wasn't a game though. During COVID, I built this company. It was called Mesh, and we were doing virtual spaces and online events. If you know the product Gather.town, we were directly competing with GatherTown and kind of doing a similar niche to them. We were basically hosting enterprise events for companies like Apple or Uber, Rippling, and Twitter. What we would do is we would sell them these virtual spaces that they could customize and host events for their employees in and do like mixers, happy hours, socials, things like that inside of it. But that wasn't really a great business, to be honest. Like what we found when we gave people virtual spaces was that if you gave people a virtual space, the best use case scenario that we saw was that they would use it about once a week on a scheduled cadence in the best case scenario. And then when we sold to like, you know, the bigger companies, they would use it maybe once a quarter. The key lesson there was basically if you give people a virtual space, you have to have something for them to do in it every single day. You know, like a shared goal or a shared objective. And yeah, that's why we kind of moved into gaming. Gaming makes a lot more sense when you think about it that way. You come and play a game every single day, it's retentive. So I was really just like thinking about it from a startup lens at first.
I think I keep hearing people say the social element as well, and I just want to bring that up because I heard you say like so many times the games that you loved growing up always had that social element. Like, do you think that's part of the success as well?
Yeah, 100%. There's two parts to it where there's a social element with us as the creators of the game that we really lean into, where we're really engaging with the community almost every single day, if at bare minimum. Like every single hour almost. I'm on Twitter all the time talking to people. I'm in a Discord all the time talking to people. The players of our game are actually active builders inside of the game too for that reason. And we've just formed a connection with the community that way. So there's this shared excitement about what we're building because these players actually do feel like a part of it because they actually are a part of it. And then we also really like to enforce social play inside of the game too. For example, you know, you have to come together to get energy at these energy parties that we host, and we make people come into the actual game in the same spot. We have this in-game sauna where you actually have to go to a sauna, you have to see all the other players. We think about social density in the game a lot because one of the issues that we saw in Web3 games at the beginning stages was you would come into a Web3 metaverse, and these metaverses are supposed to be huge and full of life.
It's so empty, right?
And they were
a lot of
empty.
them are empty.
Like crickets, tumbleweed going across.
So yeah, that was a large part of the mindset early on. It's like, how do we make it so that even if there's only like 100 people online in the game, you see a bunch of other people in the same spaces. And now it's just kind of scaled in a different way too.
Yeah, I mean, well, it seems to be working because you've just seen absolutely insane growth over the last few months, which has been so exciting, I think, for everyone in the Web3 gaming ecosystem because we've been kind of waiting for that breakout game. But a big part of that was the move, the migration from Polygon to Ronin. Can you talk us through what was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so we were building on Polygon before, and yeah, Polygon was an interesting place to be. I originally moved there because I really liked their vision for the tech, the scaling that they were doing. Like they had done some great top level BD. However, like truthfully, we didn't feel super supported when it came to like current growth needs at Pixels. And I was really looking to be partnered with somebody who also wanted us to grow as well. Like I wanted somebody who had aligned incentive and ecosystem, who also understood Web3 gaming. So one of the biggest annoyances I had during the bear market was there were a lot of people that wanted to give me advice on how to build a Web3 game. There were not a lot of people who had actually built Web3 games.
Oh, yeah. And I bet you really took all of their advice right now. So.
Yeah. So the first time I talked to like the Sky Mavis team and the Ronin team, it was such a breath of fresh air, is what I can say, where I really started to understand the experience that they had gained from scaling Axie Infinity and all of the stuff that comes with it too. Even myself, I was critical of Axie Infinity when they were on their rise and their fall. And not until I started building a Web3 game myself did I really understand what it means to be building a Web3 game. Like I started building a much deeper sense of empathy with your journey. And I started to understand, wow, like there are a whole host of issues, problems, and really hard things to figure out inside of Web3 gaming that you just really wouldn't know until you actually are in the arena. And I started to understand how valuable that experience that, Sky Mavis, Ronin, YGG, all the people who had actually been there before, how valuable that was to us. And I really wanted to partner with people who had done it. So yeah, it was actually me really aggressively reaching out to the Ronin team because I saw how valuable that could be for us. And there was this amazing aligned incentive there where, we want to help see Ronin grow. They want to help see us grow. And yeah, that was just missing from the previous partnership.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's incredible metrics. What are some of the other things that you think have contributed to the growth? Because I think you just hit 1 million monthly active users, which is amazing. Obviously the migration was a big part of it, but what other things have you done that you think have really kind of kickstarted that growth? So
the thing I'm most obsessed with is actually growth. If you ask me like where I'm directed at product and like where I'm going to spend most of my time, typically inside of the product, it's all of the growth engine aspect. And we had put a lot of work into that before we had moved into Ronin. Actually, we actually had a decent amount of users in Polygon for the bear market. We were still one of the leading Web3 games, so DAU on Polygon, even though it was much less DAU at the time. Basically, everybody was down in DAU during the middle of the bear market. But we had focused on essentially using incentives to grow the game. So even lifetime to date, Pixels has maybe only spent like $5,000 to $15,000 on user acquisition spend. Like half of that was on like a lawnmower.
For user acquisition.
Yeah.
I thought I misheard him, but no. Heidi, Pixel's Chief Marketing Officer, filled me in. Okay, Heidi, you gotta tell me, what is this fantastic lawnmower story?
I think I can't really talk about it without talking about the culture that we set at Pixels, which is, this is a farming game. It's a nostalgic, pixelated, almost childish feeling video game. People are playing this game for an escape. We didn't take things too seriously when it came to marketing because we understood that the more friendly, the more welcoming, the more easy to understand and just downright funny things are, the more successful they'll be when that's why memes are so successful. This is kind of like a meme marketing campaign in a way, because it's like a joke. People look at it and they're like, wait, are you kidding me? Like you said, wait, did I hear you wrong? Like, nope, you're right. What we ended up giving away was a glorified lawnmower, like a really fancy lawnmower that we're like, it's like a really low-key tractor or a really fancy lawnmower. I pulled the promo video from John Deere's website or something and like embedded it in our tweet and tweeted it out. And people were like, is this a joke? And we're like, no, we're dead serious. It was really funny. And like I said, it's kind of a testament to like how we were going about our marketing. We wanted to be fun and friendly and different. We're a video game. There's a clip of me saying we're a video game. If we're not having fun, what are we doing? It was so ridiculous. And yeah, that was like probably half of the amount of money that we've spent on like marketing would be the cost of this tractor. And now it's a really great story to tell. At the time, it was just kind of like silly marketing campaign. And now it's like, yeah, well, this is the Pixels culture and this is how we run things. But so that's the story of the tractor.
So Pixels has earned itself a reputation for doing things differently. They also invented Play to Airdrop, a rewards model that is now being used by pretty much every early stage Web3 game looking to kickstart their community and drive demand for their token.
it's funny, play the airdrop is a meta now, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
see so many games doing it. We ran the first play the airdrop.
Yeah,
It
and
was
now
like-
everyone's played airdrop. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a term that we coined back in like September 2022. And yeah, we knew that we were gonna have a token coming out. Like the whole thought process behind it was like, I know we have this token coming out. I know people get users a lot when they do airdrops, and they normally announce the airdrop afterwards.
Yes.
All this kind of stuff. My idea was, okay, if we're doing an airdrop, I'm gonna milk it for as much as possible.
Yeah.
We're gonna create like a whole growth incentive behind it. We're gonna market it before we do it. We're gonna tell people how they can get in, and then we created this whole point system to basically power this engine. So yeah, we had points for playing the game, progressing, doing quests, sharing with friends, and other things like that too. And we started analyzing a bunch of data, basically like what are the most effective systems of points that we can do to give our users the power to help us grow, essentially. And to me, that's actually the core of Web3. It's how do you create the best incentive structures inside of your own ecosystem to help your own ecosystem grow. And even with Pixels, I still like to think of us like a protocol, even though we're a Web3 game. I think it's a helpful framework when you think about growing an ecosystem, because protocols are designed to help them grow, right? If you're
Protocols are designed for network effects.
Exactly, for the network effects and the different incentives to help that network grow. And you should really think about the Web3 game the same way, in my opinion, where you want to
Absolutely.
think about who your users are, like what are the personas that are going to help grow that ecosystem, and then what are the incentives that you can actually put in place to help that protocol grow. And that is actually the core tech that we're working on now, and the thing that I think is going to build us the biggest competitive advantage over the next 2 to 5 years. When I'm thinking about what is the future of Pixels, it's this. The thesis is Web2 games, they grow top down, where they'll do performance marketing. They'll essentially pick out a demographic of users on the top level. They'll decide, I want to target 40-year-old women in the Philippines, and then they'll start to analyze down every single piece of the funnel, how that person will eventually convert into a paying user.
That's right.
But in Web3, I think it's the complete opposite. I think it's a bottoms-up approach.
Yep.
And it's this incentive design that you work on, where you figure out inside of your own game, who are the users that are actually the best types of users? How do you create the incentives to help them find more users inside of the game? Or how do you convert those users into like longer retaining users with the right incentive structure? And that's the fun part about Web3 gaming to me. So we put a lot of thought into growth as well, I'll say. And that's the most exciting stuff about Web3 to me.
Yeah, we think the very same way. I think the biggest difference is that we gather the community and find different interesting things to play, right? Like some people may like Pixel, some people may like Axie, some people may like hardcore MMOs like Big Time, and we're able to bring them as a group that can discover these Web3 experiences, bringing their roles into different games that they would like.
Yeah, let's come back to UA a little bit later because I know that both of you are very vocal about that topic. But just before we move off Pixels, I was just thinking, when you experience such a massive surge in users, I can't imagine that it goes completely smoothly. Like, has there been any
Fires?
hiccups along the way? Yeah, fires to put out.
Oh man, Web3 is hilarious is what I can say.
That's a lovely way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, so if you've been building Web3 for the last 2 or 3 years, you've had fires every single month that have been out of
Absolutely.
control. So I think a lot of the Web3 teams have become very resilient at this point.
Yep.
Because there's just so many hilarious things that happen every single month. You just have to laugh at it, right? And yeah, when you have a live game out that scales, same kind of stuff happens. You know, there's just fires that you have to put out every single day, and it could get stressful. But if you also just kind of lean into it, just kind of accepting that this is the deal that you made, like you're going to be dealing with fires every single day, it becomes fun in some weird, twisted way.
I've definitely said a few times, I hope Lux hires more employees very soon.
Yeah, we need the right people. We can't just
Yeah.
hire immediately. So
Yeah.
yeah, the whole team is they're doing great, but yeah, it's also getting stressful for the team too. So we are going to start hiring more now. We have like a lot of the fires under control, but now it is like getting ready to scale to the next stage because stakes are so much higher.
Yeah, how big is the team now?
It's 16 full time. So
Crazy how small the
Wow.
team is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny because people see us and they think we're this huge, massive team.
Yeah.
But no, it's just a really dedicated team that really cares about this stuff.
Something the Pixels team is known for is building in public.
Instead of waiting years to launch, they update the game regularly, they seek constant feedback from their community, so they can keep iterating on previous versions. This way, they can move fast while also giving players a real sense of ownership in terms of where the game is going.
One of the advantages, I think, of Luke's build in public approach is that it's allowed you to experiment with a lot of things that may or may not work out. And because you say it out loud in public, the community is a little bit more forgiving about it. So I love it when he says that, okay, we're going to try this and it might not work out, but we're going to try it anyway. We're going to take risks. Let's see what happens. And you actually pull it off.
It's a really aggressive build style, I'll say, and it's somewhat stressful sometimes, but I don't think it would work for us in any other way. It allows us to essentially try things out and iterate and build the right thing 10 times quicker than if we were to do something else. I think we're not a traditional game studio, and I'm totally okay with that. There are people who love building games, and they love to take their time, and it's a craft to them, and we view it in the same way. But what we're not trying to do is we're not trying to create something perfect before we put it out into the world. I'm actually very okay with putting out something that is, I don't want to call it halfway done, but something we know is not completely polished, because what we're more interested in figuring out is if that was the right thing to be building in the first place at all. And we can figure it out way sooner and waste less time if we do this, and then, if our hypothesis or our initial plan didn't work out, we know it so much sooner. So I think it works because we've built a trust with our users at this point. We tried doing this without any communication with our players, and we released, unpolished features, and we were just like these devs that never really talked to the community. I think we would have a lot of angry users. And this is why we're building in public, because we hear their feedback and we hear their concerns. And the whole point of us doing it with the community is we want to make the changes necessary to kind of ease those concerns from people. At the end of the day, we want to build a great, fun game, and we want to build a game that these people want to be playing. And yeah, this is really the best way that we think we can do it. So it does take some trust with the community that, things are going to be a bit open-ended at the very beginning. And that's also kind of the point, right? We want to make it open-ended so that we know exactly what these people want and how they're interacting, because we have our best guesses of how things might go, but we never really know.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of people evangelizing for building in public. So many startup schools talk about the need to do that, but it's just so rare that you actually see people do it because it's hard.
It's hard. It's not easy at all. And it can burn you out, honestly, if you don't put certain guardrails for yourself, your personal feelings. If something sucks, people will tell you it sucks, publicly on Discord and Twitter, and you have to learn how to deal with that.
Yeah,
you have to take the ego out of it for sure. I feel like that's a big thing where I think in the early days of my startup journey, how I approached building was I had this vision, and I think some people can pull this off and execute it really well, like the Steve Jobs types, right? Where you have this idea of what you want to bring into the world, and you plan it out, and that's what you're going with, and you just need to execute really well. That is not us at Pixels. We have good ideas of what might work and might not work, but really what we want to do is we want to find out what people resonate with most, and then kind of bring that to life.
One of the most interesting things to me that happened when there was this surge of growth during the second Play to Airdrop campaign. So I think you scaled all the way to 180,000 daily active users, was that when the P2A campaign ended, the DAU actually didn't drop off. So what do you think happened there?
Yeah, so what we think about a lot is the user acquisition level, but then the retention level too. So growth is two parts. It's getting users, but it's also keeping them. If you can't keep the users, there's no point in growing. And we put a lot of work into those retention mechanisms, essentially. There's a couple things that help power that. For example, Barry was a really strong retention mechanism when we had it in, because, earnings are, actually a pretty important part of Web3 gaming and the retention incentive in the ecosystem as well too. And it's funny because for a long time I was talking to a lot of people inside of Web3, and they're just dismissing anything about earnings or play to earn, just completely writing it off. But it's such a powerful tool. I really always thought they were wrong.
Yeah. It's we want to be in Web3 where people can earn, but don't talk about earning because it's a dirty word, right?
Yeah, and I understand why people feel that way, because if you don't talk about it carefully, and if you're not careful about how you set it up, it can be something that dooms your game as well.
Yes.
But also, if you have something that is legitimately fun and you have the great like base behind it, and you're actually creating real value, there's no reason why play to earn can't work. But you do have to execute it right. But yeah, that helped retain a lot of the users after the fact as well.
So you're saying that play to earn actually helps with retention of a game?
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if you looked at Axie Infinity's retention metrics at one point, they were mind-bogglingly insane.
Yeah.
And it's because earnings were quite high, right, inside of the game at its peak. But what we've been thinking about a lot is, like, what are the earnings per player that you need to retain a user, or at least like boost the retention in the way that you want? And, you know, are there certain users that you can target that it's more effective with? Like, these are the biggest questions that you can start asking in Web3. And if you unlock and figure these things out, that's where you become insanely massive, I think.
Advocating for play to earn is kind of an unpopular opinion, but Luke, who is an economics grad and was mining Bitcoin from the age of 13, told us how he formed his own view on crypto.
It was really interesting to me because I had this like, crypto background, right? Like I was exposed to crypto really early. And then for a while, I studied economics at university. I actually became kind of anti-crypto for a little bit.
Wait, what?
Most, a lot of economists are for some reason. Like Paul Krugman was one of my favorite economists when I was studying in university, and he has a ton of essays on why Bitcoin sucks, basically. Yeah, their critiques are that it's an asset class that's highly speculative, it has no real value, and there's a lot wrong with that. But you can also understand why somebody who's really into central banking might think that as well. Right? Who's an advisor to like U.S. government, cabinets, all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, that did leave an impact on me though. And in the 2017 boom and all of that, I just basically ignored crypto. Even in like the early 2020 boom, I saw it rising, like saw the excitement about it, wasn't really on my radar. But then I saw Axie Infinity come to life. And that was the first use case when I kind of started to understand the broader application of crypto beyond just being a use of a currency. When you start to insert it into a game, that's when it made total sense to me on how it could be really interesting. And yeah, that kind of inspired me to move into Web3 gaming with Pixels.
Well, the biggest criticism has always been that play to earn is not sustainable. And I feel like we've heard that over and over again.
I've always thought that was wrong. It's a matter of game design, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance when you bring it into Web3, but there's Web2 games that already play to earn. RuneScape, World of Warcraft, anybody that's played an MMO already knows it's play to earn. You can sell the gold on black markets. And you can make money if you really want to participate in that game econ. Now, Web3 adds complexities because it lowers the barrier to entry of selling. Like, if you play a Web2 game, it's kind of hard to sell the currency.
That's right.
So you keep more of the currency in the economy. When you have a Web3 game and that friction and barrier is lowered, you're going to get more sell pressure on the currency. So it adds some nuance there to figure out. But the core concept there is you actually are creating real value inside of a game because people do like playing games. People like spending money in games. It's a fact. There wouldn't be a gaming industry if that wasn't the case. And Web3 is a different distribution of that value. So instead of us taking all the profit inside of the game like a Web2 company would, what we really try to figure out is there a more efficient distribution of the value created inside of this game where we can maybe even skip some of the traditional spend that typical gaming companies do. Like, we don't spend money on ads. So that's actually
Why give the money to Facebook, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is there a more efficient way than us making money than spending all that money on ads? Like, that's the big question, really.
Yeah. Another criticism I've heard, and if you don't mind, I'm just loving unpacking these kind of things with you guys. People say that in terms of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, you know, your players should be just playing a game because it's fun and they purely want to do it for no other reason than just to play. And as soon as they're doing it for money, then that completely takes all the fun out of the game. And that's when the game economy is going to fall over because once the money's gone, they'll never come back. Like, what do you guys say to, you know, I guess the critics that think that that's the case?
I've always thought it was crazy talk. Like, some of the best times I've had in Web3 where, for example, I was minting NFTs with our little close Discord friends, right? And that was a lot of fun. Like, we would make some money together. We would get rugged together and share the experience. And it was miserable, but it was still a little bit fun. And now, actually, like, I'm playing Pixels with my family, my 72-year-old dad or my younger brother. We're playing as a family, playing Pixels, and we're really enjoying it. And we've never really come together and play a game together this way as a family. And this is the game that has brought us together to do that.
What do you reckon? Like, are extrinsically motivated gamers game ruiners?
So number one, I don't know if I even love the framing of that question, because I think legitimately when you start to add in some of the earning elements, it actually makes the game more fun.
Yeah.
Like you have stakes inside of the game. I play fantasy football. I'm so much more engaged in my fantasy football leagues when there's money on the line there, and it's more fun to me. I am more engaged inside of that game. I'm more engaged with the players. I like watching the games more when I know there's like stakes to it. And in Pixels, when you have some of the earning mechanisms with the game, it's like, okay, decisions I make in the game actually matter a lot more to me now. And I'm more engaged with it for that reason. It's more fun to me for that reason too. It doesn't even necessarily need to be like huge earnings, but the fact that there's something there makes every single decision you make matter more, which to me is more fun.
Yeah,
I think skin in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think putting some kind of earning or ownership elements actually increases the TAM of the game industry. Because now, if you look at where the game industry is, 200 billion, most of that is games for entertainment. And when you add in some of those economic elements, like as you grow up, for example, you play less games because life gets in the way. You want to do things that are either spending more time with your family or maybe something making money. And when I'm able to play a game and enjoy it with a bunch of people and also have the economic element where I can own the assets there, I think more people are going to want to do that than those that are just playing games purely for entertainment.
I guess a different cohort would be VCs. I know you guys are constantly talking to investor networks. So what do you think has been the approach to play to earn there? And I guess you were just raising too. So I'd be interested to know how some of those conversations went when you were saying that you're actually a play to earn advocate. Like, how'd that go down?
No, it's funny because for the last 2 years, not many people actually believed in what we were doing at all. And it was actually really hard to find people who truly believed in like our team, what we were building, our thought process, our thesis. And yeah, it's interesting because I just had this feeling for a long time. It's honestly not easy as a founder sometimes to just fight through that these people that were telling us like play to earn won't work, or like they were looking for certain metrics were just wrong.
Like what metrics were they interested in?
Yeah, so a lot of their thesis is like you have to build the most amazing game ever. You need to be best in class when it comes to retention, like in line with like the Clash of Clans, where when you're talking about like the metrics that they line like 2 games up against, it's like, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before any kind of earning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Before any kind of earnings. But I think if you're building with that model, you're really basing it off the Web 2 model. Like you need that day 28 retention without incentives in Clash of Clans, because you have to put in all this money into advertising to actually get money out of these users and like build a business. But Web 3 doesn't even work in the same way, where you don't spend on the same like user acquisition channels, you don't do any of this. So your incentive alignment, your incentive design can be totally different, and you shouldn't even be thinking about those traditional Web 2 gaming metrics in the same way. Like I think it's a good proxy for general value that you're creating inside of an ecosystem, because I think about real value inside of the ecosystem all the time. Like, okay, if somebody was going to pay for this game and these specific features, what they'd be paying, like what's the LTV out of this user? But then Web 2 or Web 3 game monetization looks different anyways. Like we're doing some interesting stuff in Web 3 game monetization where we're even focusing less on spend, and we're focusing on things like, it's hard to explain, but essentially just like we're focusing on things like locking up tokens rather than spending. We're focusing on like getting users to like soft stake inside of our game. Like for example, we're about to introduce a new feature where you can start to upgrade parts of your in-game assets, and you can technically get some of those upgrades back if you deconstruct them. And it effectively acts like soft staking, but you're not really spending it in the same way. But it has the same net effect where we take tokens out of circulating supply, and they're not spending the tokens, but it achieves the same thing, right? So there's different Web3 methodologies when it comes to monetization that don't really line up with the Web2 side of things. So when you try to compare a game with the same exact Web2 metrics that a lot of the space was looking for before, it doesn't really make sense in Web3 necessarily.
A big challenge for developers is that the usual tools and techniques for launching a game in Web 2 don't apply in Web 3. Traditional Web 2 marketing revolves around centralized platforms like search engines and social media networks and content sharing websites. But Web 3 takes a decentralized, community-driven approach to reward the people that contribute to a platform's success. Outsourcing user acquisition to your community? Sure, sounds great. But it does require a massive shift in mindset, and for many, old habits die hard.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes I see experienced founders in the game industry make is that, oh, we're making a Web3 game, but it's so fun that we're going to acquire users from Facebook and they're not even going to care about Web3, so our token won't sync. And it just doesn't work the same way. And what I really like about Pixels is how you've really leaned into the Web3 users as your citizens in your world. And let's grow this together. Let's get people into Web3 rather than having a game that is like trying to look like a Web2 game, but is really a Web3 game. Right?
Yeah, and then my question to people then too is, why are you building a Web3 game? If you're building with that method and approach, what's the Web3 actually doing inside of that game?
This is my biggest frustration.
It allows them to raise money. That's
that's it. And you say you're a Web3 game to raise money, or you build your own protocol. But the intention, the methodology, like why is the founder doing this, I think is really important. Like what's their conviction, all of this. Yeah,
I'd love to go deeper into that actually, because I think it has been difficult for people to onboard players to Web3 games. VCs are wanting to see these amazing onboarding and retention metrics. They're not there. And I think because of that pressure, a lot of games have definitely tried to abstract away a lot of the Web3 elements just to be able to get users on board. And you could potentially see that as vanity metrics. I guess if you're going the other way and really leaning into the Web3 aspect, I mean, what kind of things are you guys thinking about in terms of, I guess, really unique gameplay loops and mechanics that were never possible before with Web2 games? Like, what do you see in terms of creating the Web3 game of the future, something we've never seen before?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. One, I think Web3 games actually have to look different when it comes to economy design and game design, or you have to be really intentional about it, at the bare minimum. For example, when you start adding in incentives, you're going to get bad actors as well. I think that's part of the like Web3 reputation problem that YGG is helping to solve. But then, I see it as like threefold, right? Like if you want to make this play to earn type of game work, I think there's a couple different options. Like one, I think there's going to be a use case in a set of games that decide they're going to look more like a Web2 game. And if they want to offer incentives inside of their game, I really think they're going to have to do full KYC in order to actually make the game work. We didn't want to go in that direction. So then the other option, if you're going this direction, from my opinion, is you need to it's kind of threefold. You need to think about Web3 reputation. So you need to get a better understanding of your users. You need to filter for real users, because if you have a Web3 game with incentives, it's going to get attacked. So there's a reputation layer needed, and there's also a game design layer needed too, because the economics actually have to work in a different way as well, with this in mind, with the bad actors in mind, and with sustainable econ in mind as well too. So we've been approaching the Web3 game design from that perspective, and just order to make play to earn work differently. And then there's also interesting Web3 primitives that we've been finding that unlock new types of gameplay that didn't exist in Web2 as well, or at least are like 10x easier inside of Web3 than it is in Web2. Like interoperability is one of the biggest hooks inside of Pixels, where I think we've worked with over 100 NFT collections at this point.
Wow.
Where you can use a different NFT that we have nothing to do with. We didn't release them. We didn't launch them. And you can use it as an avatar inside of our game. And there's like 100 different,
I think that's actually one of the biggest growth hacks that you've done that very few have gotten into. That when I saw the game, and I can use like dozens of different collections, now you're inviting other communities to join your community and be part of the community. And a lot of people are trying to create their own community. Oh, let me create a PFP collection. This is my community. But now you've enabled dozens of other communities to join Pixels, right?
No, it's an amazing growth loop too. And then we've been thinking a lot about how we scale that with like the other Web3 primitives too. So like guilds is actually a really good example of a Web3 primitive, where guilds exist in Web2. I think guilds in Web3 are actually a lot stronger. And we've started incorporating that inside our gameplay as well, like working with YGG and other guilds as well. But that's the other interesting thing too. It's like guilds are kind of a next evolution of that, where it's not just this PFP community that has this personality to it, but it's a group of gamers actually.
Yeah, like a group of gamers that's always been true, that people have wanted to play together ever since the first multiplayer games were released, maybe 20, 30 years back, right? And what guilds do is that it gives you a permanent set of people that you want to play with, but you're not necessarily playing one Web3 game. You're maybe playing several. You may have different roles when you're doing it. And it's a lot more fun when you have that like consistent group of people that you want to do things with. And that's the very essence of a guild. I think people got hung up in, oh, is it the scholarship model? Like, what's the model going to work? But the truth that will always stay is that people are going to want to play together and do things together.
YGG has always had the same vision, to help gamers get together and find opportunities in the open metaverse. And now YGG is transitioning to become a guild protocol with a big focus on enabling guilds to build their on-chain reputation through earning soulbound tokens or SBTs, which are non-transferable NFTs that recognize their achievements in-game as well as their contributions to the wider YGG community. I asked Gabby to explain a little bit more about what that actually means.
So Axie kicked it off more than 3 years ago with what became the scholarship or the asset rental model. And the most interesting thing about that is that Axie didn't even come up with it. It was the community that came up with it, because community members that had a lot of Axies realized that they could trustlessly lend the assets to other people who could play the game and farm for SLP tokens, right? And the model has definitely changed. Now there's a lot more of a free-to-play element where you don't need to have assets to play games. And I think a lot of people thought that because of that, the guild model was dead. I think that couldn't be further from the truth, because people have always wanted to play together. And now that there's a free to play element, it means that you're reducing the barrier for more people to play. But what we're seeing as a model is that if you have assets that have value like NFTs, then you may be able to tap more into the earning component. But if you're someone who just wants to play the game and enjoy it, then there's a way for you to do that for free.
And what about the reputation part? You just touched on that.
Yeah, I think we think about this with Luke very much the same way. So we started down the path of soulbound tokens for reputation as achievements over 2 years ago, because we wanted community members to prove the value that they had contributing to a certain community. So for example, if I was very helpful in Axie, now I could prove that I did these quests, that I was a moderator, that I was a content creator. So these weren't mostly on-chain actions. These are actually actions that were valuable to a community that were recorded on-chain. And now you're not just a wallet with, a certain amount of money you've spent. You're a wallet that could prove that you've done these things to help the community. And I think that is a very powerful primitive that is actually seriously very unexplored in Web3. A lot of the Web3 primitives are around trading, just making money instantly. And reputation isn't about that. Reputation is about things that you do consistently over a long amount of time. And I think this is actually key to unlocking the value of Web3.
I was just going to say that was a really big problem with DeFi, I think. There's plenty of yield farmers, but it was really hard to identify who are the people who are actually contributing to my community, to my protocol.
Yes.
So you're kind of solving for that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually the biggest thing inside of Web3. So reputation to me, it's internal and it's also external. So every game really needs an understanding of how their user base reacts inside of their game, but it's also such a shortcut if I can figure out more data on a user about how good of a player they are in other games when they come into my game, right? Because then I know if they've been playing other games inside of Web3 and they have great reputation inside of those games, we can onboard them quicker, and we're probably more incentivized to onboard them quicker too. I want to give somebody who's played other games in my game more rewards way quicker because I think they're going to be a better user inside of our ecosystem. And that's kind of what we're doing internally too. That's the hard work that the Pixels team is going to be working on over the next 2 years. It's essentially this targeting of reward distribution. We want to basically be able to identify the best users inside of our ecosystem and inside of other ecosystems and give them the most rewards inside of our game.
Yeah, so Luke immediately understood the value of a player coming from our community that had soulbound tokens that were either related to Pixels or just show that they contributed to a game in general, because you knew that these were real players that actually played the game. And now you can sift out low reputation users or wallets that are just there to extract money from your ecosystem, right?
Yeah, and if you don't have this inside of an ecosystem too, we're seeing with a ton of the airdrops that are happening now, you're going to get cyber attacked. You will have people coming into your ecosystem that create 1,000 accounts, and you're going to give all of your tokens in the airdrop to basically very few users. So this is actually completely needed if you want to do this incentive design work. And if you don't have this, it's going to be extremely ineffective.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit. I'd love to understand how you both think about it, I guess, from a game's perspective and a guild's perspective around how do you create economic incentives that attract and retain the right kind of players?
Yeah, so knowing that your players have different incentives and they want to do different things in the game is important, but how do you segment and find those different cohorts, right?
Yeah.
So intuitively, you know, okay, this person is very competitive, this person is more social, this person might be like a crafter, and being able to create different kinds of quests and then record that as achievements for what they do means that you can segment them and create targeted content and rewards for these different types of players.
And yeah, in Pixels, we're trying to drill it down really, really granularly. We created this new system, the task board, which basically allows us to like algorithmically assign rewards to our users. And it's getting smarter and smarter every single week, essentially, where the idea is we kind of have our own internal reputation system ourselves. And it's combined with all this data that we have inside of the game on these users, like how are they playing, what are their typical behaviors, are they chatting with other users, like we're looking at all this kind of stuff because we want to kind of build a profile of what we think might be the best users and also segment it by the different types of users too, because we also want to reward, you know, a diverse set of types of players inside of the game. It's not just like a flat reward system. We think there's different personas that actually provide value inside of the ecosystem as well, beyond just like one type of user. So yeah, like the ideal situation when we're building this out is we define like, you know, different types of players where like maybe one's a farmer, maybe somebody's like engaging in the combat system more, maybe somebody's engaging in more of the social. We want to find the best mix of these players to create incentive structures for essentially.
Yeah. And guilds are like the perfect entity to encapsulate all of that and bring these different kinds of players together, right?
With Web3 gaming guilds traversing in and out of many different Web3 games, taking their hard-earned on-chain reputation with them wherever they go, this opens up some crazy amazing possibilities for interoperability across the entire Web3 gaming ecosystem. It's something that Web2 gamers would have loved. Like, how frustrating would it be? Especially for a guild, you know, when you spend all of this time racking up achievements in a game, but they have zero relevance outside the walled gardens of that game. Gabby explained further how on-chain reputation would empower guilds and gamers like never before.
Yeah, the funny thing is about interoperability, this is something that we've been talking about since the start of NFTs, 2018. But I think people had gotten hung up on like the wrong ideas about interoperability. A lot of people were saying, oh, it means that I can use a gun in Call of Duty and then bring that to World of Warcraft. It'll never work. And that's really not how I think about it. I think about it is that you have assets or you have reputation that you've collected in some game that will inform another game what you like and what they can give you. And there's actually a term for this in Web2. It's called ad tech, right? So a lot of these, like the assets, they're like cookies, and which tells people about you, except that in Web3, your cookies are actually achievements. You're proud to show them. And because you have these achievements, people will give you nice things in the new game. So it's not like, oh, I'm collecting data secretly about you. It's you proudly showing, hey, this is what I've achieved. So when I go to the second game, you better give me something because I'm a valuable community member.
Yeah, right now in Web2, AppsFlyer is making money off of you if you're a gamer.
Yeah.
And yeah, that really shouldn't be the case. You actually provide a really valuable service to the games as a player. And I don't think a lot of Web3 games know that they need this quite yet because a lot of them haven't gotten live. But basically, if they don't start looking into Web3 reputation, they're going to run into these issues that every Web3 game runs into at some point when it comes to, you know, the actual, you know, value add or the actual like marginal benefit of each reward that they're giving out. Basically, if they don't look at reputation, they're going to have a really hard time acquiring users because they're going to give them to the wrong people.
Yeah, and what I found is that being anonymous makes it easy to be a bad actor in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Being doxxed may make it a little bit better, but a lot of people in Web3 don't want to give up their real identity. I think what's more important than your real world identity is your reputation. And this is what enables. Like, I can have a reputation of contributing to an ecosystem that people know that I am trustworthy or I'm helpful with the community, and I can get. Now there's social reinforcement for people to act a certain way, or the entire group may lose status, and that makes it even more interesting than individual reputation.
Yeah, what's cool too is it's good for our players too if they start to build on-chain reputation, because we know that Pixels players are very valuable users. And it's great if we start to have this understanding in our user base of like, okay, if you play Pixels, other games know you're a valuable user now. It's interesting shared network effect between all Web3 games that can start to form. When we get there, it's going to be valuable for us when there's other games that start to bring in Web3 reputation. I'm dying for that, to be honest, to have like other games that we can start pulling reputation from. But in the short run too, like, if you're thinking about airdrops inside of Web3, like you really probably should be targeting Pixels users for airdrops because
Absolutely.
they're engaged Web3 users. And if we start getting more of that reputation on chain for other people to see, it's going to be easier and easier for that to happen.
Yeah, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. I just can't wait to see what's going to be happening for YGG and Pixels over the next year. So watch this space.
All right. Yeah, no, I could go on for another couple of hours on
Yeah,
that.
it's really fun.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
Yo, hey guys, Fallen, are you there?
Hey, yeah.
What's good? What's good? Wow, I just heard 80,000 simultaneously playing inside Pixels right now, man.
Yeah, when YGG shows up, we show up big, right? And obviously energy parties are a big pull for anybody within the Pixels community. So I'm sure a bunch of people didn't tune in directly for the video, but they probably tuned in for the energy, and at least now they know the video, they'll probably go tune in when they have some other time, when they're not so strapped farming away at Pixels with that precious energy.
And we did break a couple of servers, so we definitely flooded Pixels, 80,000. Our Discord channel just rugged itself, gave up with 600 people live on our stage, 2,000 on Twitter, and a couple more hundred across the board. So I think we're gonna be. We just broke new all-time highs for the YGG community, Fallen.
By far. And again, thank you to all our community for showing up. I know in Pharsis, their team, the people, Leah, that put together that, like, they just do fantastic documentaries. Their last one was the Axie documentary that was really big, and this one I think is going to be even bigger, right? Hope a lot of our community got some really good insights from, two of the biggest players in the Web3 space right now, Luke and Gabby. They touched on a lot of key points, a lot of high level stuff on, what Web3 is really trying to achieve, for everybody beyond Web 2.
Yep, and Fallen, I suggest that you better do watch out for another documentary. So something's cooking. It's not just this one.
Oh, I have a feeling that a lot more documentaries and videos, especially with all the live events that you've been attending and putting together, probably has something cooking, doesn't it?
100%, man. And I think there's a lot of hype as well around Gap. So looking forward. What do we have in store for them again this season, Fallen?
Yeah, so right now we have the biggest roster of games that we've ever had. Well over 100 Gap quests for people to go out and tackle. Pixels obviously being one of those games. But we have Parallel, GOG, 9 Chronicles. The list is quite long. And that's really feedback from our community. They wanted a huge variety of quests and games that they could go tackle, ranging from everything from easy to hard, ranging from MMOs to, TCGs. And I think we really put together that well. On the note for the specific Pixels quest, because again, today, attending this energy party, you had the opportunity to complete a quest. All you need to do is take a screenshot. I know the description says take a video, take a screenshot, because this was a watch party instead of a play party. Take that screenshot, make a post on X. All the criteria details of what you should have in the post are there. You could probably see a bunch of other people posting and kind of use their post as a template. Make sure you have the right hashtags and everything. Then you're going to go into the YGG website and you're going to open the form. Well, enroll if you haven't enrolled already. Open that form and you'll submit it. There will be a spot where you link the Twitter posts that you have made, and that will count as your submission. We do have a bug right now that I know a lot of people are coming up where you will file that form and the status on the website will not change. It will still tell you to open the form. People can rest assured that we are getting your information there. It's just a visual bug from as far as I know. The dev team is aware, so you no need to resubmit again. If you do need to resubmit, we will reach out to you during the... Oh, now I'm getting some echo.
How about now?
There we go. Yeah, I guess bringing up the screen. For whatever reason, when we're bringing up new screens today, it's everything seems to be trying to rug us. I don't know.
We're just too many to rug, man. Too many.
So yeah, as you can see, that's the website there. The current quest is the meetup party. Again, you can complete that, add that to your collection of quests. The other quest that you saw there was Gilder. Very easy to do. Same thing, join a guild, buy a shard, participate. This season's Pixels quests, besides the premium quests, are fairly easy and straightforward to take care of.
Awesome. And Fallen, I do believe that we also have premium Pixels quests, right?
Yes, we have the premium one. So that's the one I was talking about there. And that one's going to be pretty hard. Yeah.
Let me just
You've got
show the community real quick. There you go.
Exactly. So you have to have a total level of it says 250. That's actually wrong. It's 150. I'll have to tell the dev team that we'd switch that out. It must be a typo, but it's actually 150. 250 with the chapter 2 changes is just too high, so we've lowered that down to 150, which is still a massive achievement. As you can see, I'm only level 110, so we did bump that down. Chapter 2 made quite a bit of changes to the economy in Pixels, especially skill levels. So yes, it's 150. That's a harder one. In future, there's a ton of premium quests for various games that you can tackle. You essentially have to buy the YGG season pass, burn 25 tokens, and that gives you access to every premium quest, not just Pixels. But yeah, expect to see that fleshed out way more in future seasons. This is kind of like our trial run, but we're going to be doing that quite a bit more.
Awesome. And yeah, Fallen, there's definitely a lot of excitement around YGG, especially with the upcoming YGG Play Summit happening in November. I think it's also because that Fallen and Fallen Corpses and Corpse City will be revealing their faces for the first time. Am I correct?
It is anticipated. We're definitely going to be trying to show up there. We haven't directly booked it, but I know that we're going to be making the effort to come out there. Whether or not we do a face reveal is another question. You might just see us in some sort of crazy mask. I'm not quite sure if I'm
or you can always just come in cosplay, right?
Exactly, right. I think that's kind of one of the beauties of being anonymous right now is nobody quite knows what we look like. And I think once you kind of get rid of that mystique, some things change. So undecided, who knows? I'm not going to say anything until we're there. You won't know.
I think cosplay is the move, man.
It might be. I might be in just a big Ronald Pump outfit.
Amazing. And yeah, Fallen. So just before we go, I'd like to do a shout out to everyone who is in the Philippines. We have the YGG team participating at the Philippine Game Developers Expo that's happening today, tomorrow, and on Sunday. We do have actually an ongoing Game Jam demo day. So if there are any game developers in the community who are listening right now, just hop on over and visit the YGG booth. We are going to be doing some pitches at 4 p.m. Tomorrow and 10 a.m. on Sunday as well. We have 4,000 USDC on the line, as well as opportunities to get to meet founders, Gabby, and also it's a project sponsored by Solana as well. So yeah, a lot of exciting stuff, Alman.
Yeah, man, the Philippines community, you guys are just going crazy. Super jealous that we don't have as many events going on here, but I'm sure that's going to change, sometime in the future. We're looking to go worldwide with the in real life events.
For sure. Couldn't agree more, man. And yeah, maybe just some last few pointers for the community. We are 9 minutes past the top of the hour, but yeah, I'll be seeing you guys soon. How about you, Fallen?
Yeah, I will be logging off for today, heading up to farm myself at the real life farm. But yeah, if anybody has questions about Gap or stuff, we've got great community helpers, great moderators. Myself, I try to answer questions. If there's something that you can't tackle or a big issue, you can always open a ticket, and we'll do our best to get to you. You've still got roughly about a month, 30 days until the end of the Gap season, so grind hard. It's not quite done yet. You've got 30 days to go hard or go home.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, that's where we're at, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the live stream that we had tonight, and also the AMA that we had premiered earlier is now live on the YGG YouTube as well. That's youtube.com/Yield Guild Games. So Fallen, I will be seeing you soon, and everyone else, thanks for dropping by. See you guys soon. Cheers. See you in the metaverse.
Cheers. Together we play.
Help these, cause they know they can never touch these. So baby, let me talk my shit, or I might just go another feed. You know I can't help these, cause they know they can never touch these. So baby, let me talk my shit, or I might just go another feed. Yo! Loro no Zoro. I might just go another feed.
I am Sailor Moon! Go forth and prevail.
Go, Web, go! I might just go another feed.
Nobody's getting hurt.
Gamer community is from globally. We have from Latin America, we have from Asia, as well as USA and also Europe. So I think this is one of the very key distinctions that we have and we can bring onto the table for Web3 gaming.
Maraming mga opportunities sa Web3. You can start from knowing what is wallet, something like that, right? What is token? What is crypto? From there, kung marunong kung gamers kayo at heart, you can onboard yourself or your friends.
Let me tell them one time, I've been on the grind, this my prime. Let me tell them one time, I've been on the grind.
Talking to you as students, as our fellow community members in Metaversity and YGG is really helping us to shape a much larger program for education for Web3 and really providing more of these economic opportunities to as many Filipinos as we can.
I already knew that I wanted to be involved in video games. Alam ko parang naisip ko habang naglalaro ako ng mga games na to, sino ba yung gumagawa ng mga games na to? Paano ba siyang ginagawa? So when I graduated in 2000, I knew I wanted to become a game developer.
Again, we have two options on how you can trade cash or crypto sa CoinPH. First, you can use the spot trade, and second, you can use the buy and sell feature.
I've been on the grind, and this is my prime.